Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Thursday, October 16th. We are coming off another bumpy session that ultimately ended mixed yesterday, hanging on to green, thanks in part due to positive momentum from earnings. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed in the green. The S&P 500 picked up 26 points, and the NASDAQ gained 148. The Dow slipped from morning highs and closed near flatline, but in the red, off 17 points. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're higher. We're up 0.39%. So it's like 0.4%. That's good. That indicates a strong opening this morning. So we got to be excited about that. What's causing it's AI stocks. This AI momentum is continuing. And last night we had very positive forward guidance from Salesforce.com, ticker CRM, at its Analyst Day. Remember, their Analyst Day is happening where? At Dreamforce. And I've been touting this for a week now. I've been saying, listen, Dreamforce is coming up. Dreamforce is coming up. You got to pay attention to it because this is when you're going to see some volatility in stock price. And with the Analyst Day and the positive comments that they made, yeah, that stock is rallying this morning. You know who else is having an Analyst Day today? Oracle. ORCL. Their Analyst Day starts at 12:45. That's what to pay attention to. There's already some news announcements out there this morning, but there's going to be more coming. On the geopolitical front, China. China made a move last night to lower trade tensions with the U.S., saying, hey, the U.S. has taken its rare earth statement, its recent rare earth statement out of context. I kind of mentioned that yesterday. I was like, this is not that big a deal, and sure enough, they're saying you take it out of context. So that's lowering the tensions. That's positive for markets as well. After the bell yesterday, though, President Trump came out and made this statement. Said that India's Prime Minister Modi had pledged that his country would stop buying oil from Russia. And he said, I don't know if it's breaking news. He knew it's breaking news. So that's a big change. We'll see if that's actually true or not. But we got to keep an eye on that. But oil is trading higher. President Trump's he's supposed to speak today at 3 p.m. I don't know what he's going to say. You never know because he goes on so many topics. It's hard to keep track. But there's a speech scheduled from President Trump today at 3 p.m. What else do we have? There's a significant lineup of FOMC officials ready to speak today. Remember, today's the last day that they can't speak because the blackout period starts tomorrow. So when the blackout period starts, we won't be hearing from any Fed officials tomorrow or all the next week ahead of that FOMC meeting. Earnings reports came out. BK is trading higher this morning. JBHT is up. Travelers Group, USB, US Bank Corp, that's all trading higher. After the bell today, you got Interactive Brokers and CSX Corp. Tomorrow morning, you got American Express. You got SLB and STT, State Street. They're all scheduled to report. Taking a look over at Europe and seeing at the action in Europe, we're looking at the DAX. The DAX is flat. It's up 7 points, 0.03. It was up about 0.15 since giving back some of those gains. Some positive. There's some positive action going on there due to corporate earnings, but they're watching the French political situation unfold as well. The FTSE, on the other hand, that's down 23 points or 0.25%. Their GDP data for August showed growth of 0.1%. Which matched expectations. Remember, the July data was down 0.1%, so they're kind of flatlining. In France, you look at the CAC, it's up 0.87%. I mean, wow. I mean, it's being supported by gains in financials and industrial stocks. French politics remain in focus. Over the parliamentary debates over fiscal reform linked to the France's 2026 budget. Taking a quick look over at Asia, and Asia was, I'd say mixed to higher. I mean, the Nikkei definitely gained. The Nikkei was up 1.27% without performance in the tech stocks. Hong Kong fell 0.09% with some weakness in tech, consumer, and property stocks. But China was up about 0.1%. it was done on cautious sentiment due to the recent trade developments with the U.S. But the key here is that China's fourth plum meeting is scheduled to begin on Monday. And that's where the Chinese leaders get together and they go out to chart the nation's economic policies and discuss its next 5-year plan. So, there's typically a lot of momentum going into that event. So we want to, keep an eye on that for next week. And then we have got oil. I mean, oil finished the day lower yesterday. Okay, not a lot, but it ebbed lower, and then it turned. Why did it turn? Because President Trump made this statement about President Modi of the Prime Minister of India, Modi, said he assured him that India is going to stop purchasing oil from Russia in the future. Well, that turned oil from negative to positive last night. And then you had the API estimates. They actually indicated a build in inventories of 7.4 million barrels for the week ending October 10th. That's typically bearish. But this Modi news, if true, I mean, that's very beneficial. You're not seeing markets overly react. You got WTI at $58.62 a barrel. That's up 0.6%. And you got Brent trading at $62.25 a barrel. That's up 0.55%. So it is higher, but it's cautiously higher is how I would describe it, because we can't be assured that this, those were the exact details of what India's Prime Minister Modi said to President Trump. There could be some confusion in that statement, but we're keeping an eye on it, and that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update report, Emily.
The oil cautiously higher here this morning, and markets higher, maybe a little bit more of a smooth sailing on the green front because of that wind in the sails from AI after that choppy day yesterday. So following along all of that news, and one of the areas that we're keeping track of because it is action-packed is earnings action. So Bill, let's start there. Give us a rundown of everything that we should be watching when it comes to earnings action.
JBHT, that's JB Hunt, the transportation company. They beat by 30 cents, and they did that on higher revenue. You look at JBHT, it's up 13.82% this morning. Taiwan Semiconductor, that's ticker TSM, Tom, Sam, Mary. Those guys came out and they delivered a beat as well. They beat by 42 cents. That stock's up 2.06% this morning. You got Bank of New York, BK, they beat by 14 cents on higher revenue. Seen some positive action there. TRV, Travelers Group, Tom, Richard, Victor, they beat by $1.82. TRV beat by $1.82, but the stock's weakened. It's down 6.48% this morning. Upcoming, we got a number of good reports coming out. We got IBKR, that's Interactive Broker. They're coming out after the bell today. Their EPS is 49 cents. Expected moves 5.73%. Stock's a little rich. Brokers' price targets are at or lower where the stock is priced now, so I'm a little concerned there. Then we have American Express, AXP, Apple X-Ray Paul. Their EPS is $3.96 with an expected move of 4.33% when they release after the bell today. But that's what I have for you in terms of earnings report, Emily.
Bill, I have to pause to mention BK Bank of New York. That was your pick of the day yesterday, and we will do a recap on that one by the end of the show, so stick with us. But before we get there, we have a number of other things to get through, including economic events. It goes without saying that we're kind of still on hold with a lot of these economic indicators and data because of the ongoing government shutdown. But where we're not light is Fed speak, sifting through a lot of this to really get a feel for the overall sense of what's going to be happening next with their monetary policy decisions. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
You got a couple of reports coming out. You got at 8:30 a.m., you get the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. 10 a.m., you get the Housing Market Index. But in terms of Fed speak, at 9:30 a.m., we're going to hear from Fed Governor Stephen Moran. At 12:10 p.m., we're going to hear from Atlanta Fed Bank President Raphael Bostic. Then at 12:30, we're going to hear from Stephen Moran, Fed Governor Stephen Moran again. Then at 1 p.m., we're going to hear from Fed Governor Christopher Waller. And then at 1:35, we're going to hear from Kansas City Fed Bank President Jeffrey Schmidt. So, yeah, we got a nice heavy dose of data. And then, I just want to point out, yesterday we had the Beige Book, and it kind of showed that the economic activity in the U.S. has seen little change in recent weeks. Out of the 12 Fed districts, 3 noted modest growth, 5 reported no change, and 4 observed a slight or softening economic conditions. This is kind of like, just gearing up for a rate cut when the Fed meets in 2 weeks. So, just another positive factor. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update, Emily.
And with that host of information coming out, keeping track of all of that, a good heavy dose of that Fed speak, you're going to be using your newsware to follow along with all of that commentary and keeping track of those data points as well. We're also keeping track of data, news, and information and commentary are things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You use your newsware to follow all of that in those groups. And you also can group your stocks together, like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks, really being able to track trends on the trading day ahead. So, Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check this morning, Emily, and I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 23 higher, I got 7 lower, and 1 unchanged. Then I'm looking at my FANG stocks, and they're all showing gains. They're all up, showing in the green, so that's positive. Yeah, we're going to be opening up higher. We're going to be opening up on the upside this morning. Then we're taking a look at some of the news that's behind the tape, like Apple. This is kind of interesting. Apple's executive, the guy in charge of developing AI-driven web search, he's leaving. He quit. He's going to go. Where's he going? Meta Platforms. Meta is building an army of the top guys for their AI tools. Meta, they just entered, speaking of Meta, they just entered into a strategic partnership to scale AI efficiency with ARM, the semiconductor manufacturer. That's very interesting. In terms of Tesla, Trump had his White House event last night. We had executives from Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, they were all there. Who wasn't there? Elon Musk. He was in Texas, apparently. I don't think he got an invite. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we're talking Salesforce, CRM, strong gains this morning. I mean, the stock's up 6% due to the revenue targets announced at its Analyst Day. I mean, Salesforce sees over 60 billion in revenue by 2030. So yeah, that stock's we're seeing nice strong gains. Software is not dead. This thing is going to continue to move. Then we got IBM. IBM announced new AI agents on Oracle's AI agent marketplace. Honeywell, ticker HON, their board of directors approved the spinoff of Solstice Advanced Materials. In terms of merger news, we got NVO, Novo Nordisk. They're going to be buying blood disease drug from a company for up to $2.1 billion. In terms of guidance news, UAL came out and they see Q4 adjusted EPS coming $3 to $3.50. That's kind of a wide target, but the consensus was $2.87. That's a big uptick. HP Enterprises, they see full year 2026 adjusted EPS coming in $2.20 to $2.30. Street estimated is $2.42. That's a downtick. That's why the stock's getting hit this morning. In terms of buyback news, HPE did come out and they said they're going to repurchase an additional $3 billion worth. Salesforce, they expect to buy back $7 billion in common stock within the next 6 months. So yeah, we get some positive action in the buybacks. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
This is the type of data that Newsware delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk Pick of the Day, a host of information to be sifting through, earnings, events, of course, other corporate news. So, Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Going to go with American Express, ticker AXP, Apple X-Ray Paul. Earnings are due out tomorrow morning. Now, the EPS is $3.96, but the expected move is 4.33%. You look at the call volume yesterday, 5,243 calls versus 4,785 puts. Positive, but the open interest is really startling because you get 168K on the call side versus 83 on the put side. Yeah, that's a big divergence. And the major brokers, they like it. They've been raising price targets. They're positive on the stock. Now, I mean, I look at the stock this morning and it's trading slightly higher. I want to get in, I want to get in into 330 level, but, I'm also wary and thinking that it could, we could see like some weakness down to the 326 level. So I gotta, keep that, I gotta keep that in check. So if the sell-off starts to weaken, I'll look to get in somewhere in that range. But that's my pick of the day, AXP, Apple X-Ray Paul, under 330, Emily.
Another earnings play today in the financial sector with, an entry point that you're targeting and similar strategy yesterday. In just a moment, we will check in on that spot on entry point with that one. So stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay. UFC Octagon Fighters action figures and collectible are now available on Amazon. Yeah, okay. Fed's Barkin, Richmond Fed Bank President Barkin says, the employment situation is basically flatlining. They're not hiring or firing. Charles Schwab's up 4% this morning after better than expected Q3 results. IBM partners with Mission 44 to fast track AI skills. Ooh, here's something. Jack in the Box is going to sell Del Taco, for $115 million. They just bought Del Taco a few years ago. Interesting. Snowflake, ticker SNOW, and Palantir partner for an enterprise-ready AI analytics. Ford's recalling 59,000 vehicles over fire risks. Meta Platforms is investing up to $1.5 billion to set up a 1 gigawatt data center in El Paso, Texas. ELF Beauty Brands announced a partnership with Twitch. Starbucks CEO last night said the company's ahead of schedule in its turnaround efforts. Walmart forges a deal with OpenAI to allow shopping on ChatGPT. That's nice. That's a nice idea. Walmart is showing some gains this morning, but it's a little high. Stock's trading a little high, too rich for me. I'm really excited about this Oracle event today. I think that could really, cause some momentum in the markets when they start talking at 12:45. But that's what I have for you in terms of morning updates, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off and dive into trading on this busy Thursday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day. Pointed out earlier in the show was Bank of New York. You also gave us a preview of their earnings during your earnings report. The company did report Q3 earnings that topped markets' revenue expectations, with sales up 9.3% year over year to $5.08 billion. And yesterday, Bill, you were giving a specific entry point. You said the 107 area, give or take 25 cents. I don't think I could make this up. The low was 106.78. A couple days in a row, not only were you spot on with your picks, but you were spot on with those entry points. So, Bill, how did your call work out?
It worked out really good. I mean, you look at the opening trade there. The stock opened up at $107.97, $107.97. Then it fell down and it breached the 107 mark. It hit 106.99 before rallying up to 1%. So I was out. I was done. But then it faded again down to the 106.77 area, and then before catching fire, and the stock ran all the way up to 108.93, and then it closed at 109. In the aftermarket, I saw it hit 109.90. You look at the stock this morning, it's 109.40. I don't know. Any way you look at it, Bank of America, ticker BK, was a winner. My entry price, listen, entry prices are really tough to guess. There's a lot of factors. You're not going to be right every day. But yeah, last 3 days I've been pretty spot on. So, kind of shows you that I have the ability to do it. I have, I have a crystal ball here, and sometimes things work out. But BK, winner, winner, winner. I'm very happy.
Bill, I'd call it less of a guess and more of a strategy, sort of your own crystal ball, using a number of factors to make these calls. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's American Express pick of the day, see if we can get another win there. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow to end your trading week at NewsWare's Trade Talk, when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.